Continuing my read-through of the New Teen Titans collected volumes, I now come to the New Teen Titans Volume 8. Now, just to briefly recap my history with this series, these were comic books that were popular in the early 1980s. I discovered them about 10 years later, in the early 1990s, when I was first getting into comics. I was frequenting the bargain bin at my local comic book store where you could buy 3 comic books for $1, which was considered a bargain at the time. And for whatever reason, luck or serendipity or whatever, my local comic book store happened to have a lot of New Teen Titans in the bargain bin, 3 for $1. And after I fell in love with this series and these characters, I started buying all the ones that I could find. Now, at my local comic book store, the comics I found there were mostly after the Judas contract. So from about volume 7 onwards in these collections. The comic books from before volume 7, I was able to find some of them, but not all of them. So in the previous volumes I've been reviewing, volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, I had some previous knowledge of those comics, but it was very spotchy. From volume 7 onwards, including volume 8 here, these are actually comics that I know much better. So in this collection, there are, I think, maybe 1, possibly 2 of these comics that I did not have in my collection, but the rest of them I did. And I read and reread them several times, as you do when you're young and you have a comic book collection. So this is revisiting old friends to a large extent. Although now that I'm on this read-through project, I am now rereading these with a better knowledge of which comics had come before. Kind of. Although, this is a little embarrassing to admit, but as I'm reading through these comics and they are calling back to earlier comics, I'm finding that the volumes I've read in the preceding months, volumes 1 through 7, I only partially remember. And I don't know why that is. Maybe that's because I'm middle-aged now and I don't remember things as well. I think many of us on BookTube seem to have that experience, right? The stuff we read when we were younger stays in our mind perfectly. The stuff we read and when we're older, we tend to forget easier. It could also be as well that when I was younger, I not only read but reread those comics multiple times. So maybe they've stuck more in my mind for that reason. But as we go through this collection and some of these issues are calling back to earlier issues, I might just mention that I only partially remember those earlier issues they're referring back to, even though I only read them a few months ago. I don't know. Maybe it was also just because I'm reading too much of these at one time and my mind can't absorb them all. We'll see. But anyways, I'm going to start at the beginning, and I'm going to go through and just comment on these comics as I find them. I think I've got a lot to say about all of them. And my time limit is 30 minutes because that's the limit on my camera for the video size file. So at the end of 30 minutes, however far I get, will be the end of my review, and we'll see how far I can get. I have a bit to say about some of these issues, so I might not make it all the way through this volume, but we'll see. So we start off here with issue number 49, which is Dr. Light is Back, which starts off with everybody getting ready for the wedding. And we see Dick Grayson, a.k.a. Robin, a.k.a. Nightwing, is being fitted here. And Terry's friends are giving him a rough time about his girlfriend, saying, she's going to be Bowser City because Dick Grayson doesn't want to talk about her. Only to find out that when she does show up, she is the absolutely gorgeous Corey, and put these guys right in their place. Now, this is something that I remember from when I was younger and kind of thought it was a little bit cheesy, and now that I'm older, I definitely feel that this is kind of cheesy. I mean, Marv Wolfman is rather fond of this. Dick Grayson showing off his trophy girlfriend occasionally in these comics. But yeah, I don't know what the appeal of this is. I mean, obviously the obvious sex appeal, but I feel like as characters that makes them kind of boring. You know, they're too good looking, too perfect, too much the popular kids in high school. I mean, wouldn't it be more interesting to deal with more flawed characters? Now, I know actually the Teen Titans are all flawed in their ways, which is part of the reason that this series works so well, that the characters all have various hooks and arcs and angst. But certainly on the physical front, they're all portrayed as being too perfect. So we move on here, and in preparation for the wedding, we have Wonder Girl's friends and family showing up. There's Lilith from the original Teen Titans, Wonder Woman, Wonder Girl's adopted older sister, and what was her name again? It's going to be on the next page. Sharon something, right? Yeah, Sharon something. What is her? Sorry, what is her name? Okay. Yeah, Sharon Tracy. Sorry, Sharon Tracy. So, Sharon Tracy, actually, I know who this is now, that I've read some of the collections of the Silver Age Teen Titans. She was introduced back in the 1960s as Wonder Girl's roommate, and introduced by none other than Marv Wolfman, who wasn't the regular writer on the Silver Age Teen Titans, but who wrote a couple of issues, including one trying to retcon Wonder Girl's origin stories, in which he introduced Sharon Tracy as Wonder Girl's roommate. I don't think Sharon Tracy has appeared much since then in the comics, but Marv Wolfman brought her back for these couple issues. And then there's Lilith, who I also talked about when I was reviewing the Silver Age Teen Titan volumes. And I said at the time that Lilith was one of my least favorite characters because she had these sensory powers where she could sense the future only in vague and often unhelpful terms, and her ability to sense the future came and went as it was convenient to the plot. So I just thought that was not my type of character. I hate those type of characters who have vague powers like that come and go with no explanation. But Marv Wolfman does not feel the same way, because Lilith is going to stick around for several more issues. Now, to be fair, Marv Wolfman does give her something to do, and he gives her some sort of character arc. And once her character arc is concluded, then she's going to exit stage left and not be in these comics anymore. Her character arc is going to continue into the next volume, Volume 9. So we'll be seeing more of her in that volume. But the wedding preparations aside, the rest of this is just about Wally West, who's trying to stop Dr. Light. Now, Wally West at this point is no longer part of the Teen Titans. He is trying to retire from superheroing. Partly because he was just had personal issues, wanted to be a normal person, wanted to be a normal student. His girlfriend wanted him to be normal. He was having personality conflicts within the Titans, but partly also because his super speed is killing him, which is going to be the big point of this issue, and if memory serves, will be the reoccurring issue whenever Wally West is brought up in the comics, Teen Titan comics again, until this all of a sudden goes away around the time of Crisis. Exactly the time of Crisis, if memory serves. Now, one of the things I think that I've noticed, actually, now that I've gone through and I've read this all the way from Volume 1, is that the super speed is killing him thing was not actually set up that well in earlier issues. His of all the reasons for him leaving the Titans, this wasn't the main one. But I don't know where this comes from, but this is his main issue now. It was alluded to in some of the previous issues very briefly, I think, that his super speed was slowing down, but not that it was killing him. I don't know. Maybe this is the issue where it becomes established. So he and his girlfriend, Fran, who can control metal, are pitted against Dr. Light. And then we get the Flash Barry Allen checking out Wally at the end of this. It would be interesting to see what was happening in the pages of the Flash comic at this time, to see how much Wally West's story arc was playing out in the pages of the Flash. But it might not have been. This might just have been the Teen Titans. So it's an interesting issue in that after Marv Wolfman decided to get rid of Wally West, he then decides to go back and check on Wally West and devote most of this whole issue to him. It also reminds me that around this time there was a Teen Titans Spotlight that started being published, which would just spotlight individual characters and sometimes peripheral characters. Like I think this Fran girl got her own issue of Teen Titans Spotlight. And I don't think those Teen Titans Spotlight issues are collected in these volumes. I actually did a Google search of them. I don't think they're collected anywhere, as far as I can tell. Although I'm sure you could find them posted on some website somewhere, illegally probably. But yeah, it's a shame they're not in a collected volume somewhere. I'd love to get those out from the library and read them. But anyways, we now move into the main event, the wedding. So this was issue number 50. And because it was a special issue, the 50th anniversary issue, it was a double-sized issue, larger than normal issue at any rate. I don't remember if this one was actually in the 3 for $1 bin, but I had this in my collection. I may have paid a little extra for it. I don't know. But I did have this one back when I was collecting comics. So because it's the 50th issue, we get the wedding between Terry Long and Donna Troy. And in one of the later issues, when Marv Wolfman is looking back and doing one of his retrospective analysis of his time on the Teen Titans, I don't remember which issue this was, but in one of those, he had a little column in which he looked back fondly on this issue and said, "Isn't it wonderful that we could have a whole double-sized issue about this wedding, and there was no supervillain who broke in and invaded the wedding, as you would normally expect in comics. There's no villain throughout this whole thing. It's just the wedding. And there's some personality conflicts, of course. The Teen Titans was always a little bit of a soap opera. But for the most part, it's just the wedding, and we are just meant to enjoy it because we are fond of these characters." So Marv Wolfman was quite proud of that, and to give credit where credit is due, I think this largely works. The thing maybe which is weak about this is that nobody cares about Terry Long. And this is something that I noticed when I go back and I read through this collection all the way from Volume 1 to here, is how nothing of a character he is. He shows up in the New Teen Titans, introduced out of nowhere. He's 10 years older than Donna Troy, who is still a teenager. This is the Teen Titans, after all. She's 19. He's in his late 20s, so right away you're kind of like, Now, Marv Wolfman, in somewhere or other, has written that a lot of people wanted to see Donna Troy dating Robin or dating one of the other Teen Titans, but he really thought that she was such a strong woman that she needed an older man. I suppose there's a value judgment hidden in that comment, but that was the reason for that. But Terry Long, this older man, was introduced out of nowhere for the purpose of being Donna Troy's boyfriend. There was always from the beginning presented as a bland character. There was no story of how they met. It was just established already at the beginning of the New Teen Titans that they were already dating. Their relationship didn't have any history with it. There were no obstacles we saw them struggle to overcome together. They were just always presented as lovey-dovey and no problems. And so in that respect, given the fact that this is somebody we don't really know all that well and don't really care about, I think it arguably dampens how much we care about this marriage. But to be perfectly fair to Marv Wolfman and the writers of the New Teen Titans, even though they completely botched the opportunity to milk this relationship for drama building up to the wedding, they will milk it for plenty of drama in the issues following the wedding. So this marriage is going to have a lot of problems, and then it's ultimately going to, spoiler alert, end badly with a lot of acrimonious feelings between the two of them. Does that take away anything from all the feelings in this issue? I don't know. You be the judge. Another interesting thing about this issue, according to the DC Fan Wiki, is this issue contains all the Titans, past and present. Now, I don't see Mr. Jupiter in here, so arguably Mr. Jupiter is an exception, but all the rest of them make cameos, and there's quite a lot of characters who make cameos. Some of them I had to look up. So we see, who do we see over here? There's there's a lot of references to Donna Troy's recently discovered adoptive family. So I think this is some of them over here. This is him over there. And their names are just dropped like we remember who they were. I completely didn't remember who they were. Like I said, some of the information in the previous volumes I'm forgetting already. So I had to look them up on the DC Fan Wiki. But then I remembered, oh yeah, that's her adoptive family. They only appeared in one issue, but they're being presented here like they're old-time supporting cast members that we should know. But yeah, aside from them, all the other Teen Titans come back to make a cameo, except Mr. Jupiter is not here. I don't know if he counts or not. Did I mention Mr. Jupiter already? I don't remember. But here's Mel and what was her name? The Bumblebee, and Wally West and Aqualad, Aquagirl, Speedy over here. They're all out of costume because of the wedding, but they all show up. Here is Hawk and Dove. I'd like you to meet my very dear friends, Don and Hank Hall, Hawk and Dove. Don has often spoken about you two. Funny, I got the impression you were older. Yeah, lately everyone's been saying that. And then we go to the next page and we're on to a new character completely. So this is obviously some sort of inside joke. Because this is their only line here. But I've been trying to puzzle this out and I can't figure this out. Why would everyone be thinking Hawk and Dove are older than they actually are? The only thing I can guess at is maybe these characters are so iconic to the 1960s and the Hawks and the Doves that them still being teenagers in the 1980s makes it a little bit strange. Which brings up an interesting question. Does anyone know how was DC dealing with aging at this period in their history? So in a very short time, a few months from when this issue was published, DC is going to begin their Crisis on Infinite Earths series, which is going to reset their continuity and reset all the characters' ages. And then from that point on, DC is going to reboot their continuity every 10 years. But at this point in DC continuity, they hadn't yet introduced the reboot. So what was their in-universe reason for explaining why all these characters were still teenagers? Does anyone know? I actually did a Google search on this to try and figure out how DC explained aging before the Crisis, and I couldn't get any answers on Google's. Maybe I was using the wrong search terms. But yeah, moving over here, we have Golden Eagle and Batgirl. So these are characters that I believe were in the Bronze Age of the Teen Titans, but etc. The point is Dula Dent, the Joker's daughter, or Two-Face's daughter. Another character from the Bronze Age of the Teen Titans. Yeah, so point being, there's a lot of cameos in this issue. We also in this issue have Raven, who doesn't attend the wedding because she's doing some sort of soul searching. And in fact, throughout this whole volume, Raven barely appears because she's fighting off some sort of possession of her soul by her evil father. And again, I don't remember what triggered this. I mean, I know it's inherent to Raven's character that she's always battling her evil self in some form or another. But what was the event that triggered it, that put Raven at this crisis point? I actually went back at Volume 7 and looked back through that volume. And it looks like in Volume 7, she's also in this crisis point. I couldn't find the thing that triggered it. Maybe it occurred somewhere in Volume 6. Like I said, I guess I don't remember. Oh, and another good thing about this issue that works, I forgot to mention this, Garfield Logan is organizing everything. And he's got, I think his name is Questor, Questor, who's his father's servant, who has had an antagonistic relationship with Garfield Logan up to this point in the comics. But here, Questor really comes through and sees how much stress this is causing with Garfield Logan. And so he comes through and helps Garfield out and also praises how well Garfield is doing on this thing. So that was a neat character moment, is seeing these two come to appreciate each other during this wedding. There was a whole bunch of other little character moments in this issue. In fact, it's all character moments because no big bad guy ever appears in this. But I won't comment on all of them. We've got a lot of other things to talk about, and I am rapidly running out of time. So on to the next issue, in which we are back to fighting bad guys. So Lilith is back with the Teen Titans for the next few issues. Please be careful. My precognitive powers aren't always accurate, but I'm picking up flashes of danger. That's why I don't like this character. What kind of help is that, huh? But yeah, okay. There she is. But the main point of this issue, is Garfield Logan thinks that Jericho is a traitor, and he has angst because he has felt betrayed from Tara before. And, like he says, he doesn't want to be made a fool of twice. So This is something I believe I mentioned when I was reviewing the Judas contract in the previous volume, Volume 7. If I didn't mention this explicitly, then I should have. But although that issue had its weak points, and Garfield Logan's attachment to Tara wasn't entirely believable, the fallout from this, Garfield being hurt because of his betrayal from Tara, is going to be his main point of angst for the next several issues. And this is a case in point. So he's going to fight Jericho once he thinks that Jericho is a traitor. But the main villain in this issue is Cheshire, who is one of the reoccurring villains in the New Teen Titans, and who is rematching them again here because she was previously introduced in a separate issue. I believe that was Teen Titans Annual number 2, which I must have read in one of the previous volumes, but again, I don't remember it. So Cheshire's origin story, or her first appearance, I don't think I remember it. I guess it was in one of the previous volumes. But when we meet Cheshire, she is talking about someone who left him with a love child and wants to get her revenge on him. And we find out that the Titans, please, he is one of them too. So this person who left her with a love child is one of the Titans. Now, if you're at all familiar with DC Comics, you know exactly who they're talking about here. This is Roy Harper, a former member of the new Teen Titans, a former member of the original Teen Titans, who has left Cheshire with a love child. And this is an event that gets referenced frequently in the pages of the the new Teen Titans comics. I'm getting all these names mixed up. Teen Titans, the new Teen Titans. Anyways, Roy Harper's love affair with Cheshire, which produces this child, is something that's going to get referenced back frequently in the pages of the new Teen Titans. But it actually doesn't occur in the Titans comics. It occurs in a different comic because Roy Harper goes off to become a secret agent, and he has adventures in another DC comic, which is where he meets Cheshire. So this is something that happened off in another comic. But Cheshire now has had a child with Roy Harper. Roy Harper is not actually in this issue, but he will come back several issues later in the pages of the new Teen Titans to confront Cheshire. Anyways, moving along, Cheshire is on a contract, and she gets Jericho's mother, and she has a fight with Jericho. She is aware of Jericho's power, so she doesn't look him in the eyes, so Jericho can't take over her. When Garfield finds out that the CIA is investigating Jericho and his mother, he assumes he's been betrayed, and he fights Jericho. Jericho goes off to save his mother. And meanwhile, the next story is... There's an alien picked up from an alien ship who's in Star Labs, and all of a sudden he starts overheating for reasons that are not clear. And unless I missed something, I'm not sure there was an adequate explanation given here. I may have missed something. We find out in later issues that Lilith overheats when she gets next to this alien. But that doesn't appear to be what's happening here. Here it just looks like the alien is overheating. There's an explosion here in which Cyborg tries to protect Lilith. And then this is the last we see of that. Cuts back to a different story. And it never gets resolved what happens. which is actually something that happens multiple times in this volume. I'm not going to have time to talk about them, but I've picked out 3 total times here where the characters are in peril at the end of the issue, and then the next issue just does